In the summer of 2020, the Black Lives Matter movement rose in popularity.
Black lives don't matter at all to me. White lives matter. You've had everything. Free everything. Blacks have been coddled for years. Free college. Free everything. Your test scores are higher. Everything. Free college. Free everything.
And this was the response from white America.
Black lives don't matter. All lives matter. All lives matter.
All lives matter. From the Proud Boys.
Do Black Lives Matter or do all lives matter?
To the wheels being in motion at Fox News.
He's un-American and he doesn't deserve to be in our country.
All white.
So
all
that's
lives matter.
To years prior with Colin Kaepernick.
So you won't say Black Lives Matter?
John, I really believe that all lives matter.
And the rhetoric used by some of the most powerful. These actions taken by Republicans were in lieu of George Floyd being killed by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, Jacob Blake being shot 7 times in the back by white police officer Rustin Shesky in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the unfortunate statistics that sadly still continue to plague our nation with no end in sight. It would lead LeBron James to say this.
I know people get tired of hearing me say it, but we are scared as black people in America.
Thus, in response, LeBron and his fellow NBA players would take a knee during the national anthem in the NBA bubble while wearing Black Lives Matter shirts. ESPN's Malika Andrews would show the courts with messaging on it. However, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, would discontinue those messages the following season. One of the greatest coaches the game has ever seen, Phil Jackson, despised all of it. He would reflect on a podcast with Rick Rubin. They did something that was kind of wanky. They did a bubble down in Orlando, and all the teams that could qualify went down there and stayed down there. And they had things on their back like justice. They made a funny thing like justice just went to the basket and equal opportunity just knocked him down. So my grandkids thought that was pretty funny to play up those names, so I couldn't watch that.
You're sitting up watching a game with your grandkids, and y'all think it's funny when justice passes the ball to equal opportunity? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So stop watching. Forever.
Jalen Rose, a former NBA player and current basketball analyst on ESPN, laid into Jackson. Phil and his grandkids made light of the NBA and NBPA agreeing on these approved messages that players were allowed to wear on their backs. Some notables like LeBron James and Nikola Jokic chose not to have a message. For Jackson, who's won 13 championships, 11 as a head coach, it was just too much for him. He'd continue. They even had slogans on the floor, on the baseline. It was catering. It was trying to cater to an audience or trying to bring a certain audience into play, and they didn't know it was turning other people off. People want to see sports as non-political. ESPN's Jesse Washington, a journalist and documentary filmmaker, would read between the lines. Phil is dead wrong. Black Lives Matter messages were not on the court to bring a certain audience to the game. The players demanded those messages to reflect their feelings about America at that moment and to participate in worldwide demands for racial justice.
The same Phil Jackson that won championships with some of the greatest black athletes in the history of the game. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, made millions on their backs and off their sweat equity.
This is the same Phil Jackson who commented on LeBron James and used the word Posse, which he received flack for, rightfully so. LeBron pointed to the racial undertones of the word, which has merit, although many in the Jackson sphere would disagree. After all, this was the same, don't forget it, the same Phil Jackson who said of the NBA's dress code by the late Commissioner David Stern in the year 2005, quote, "I think it's important that the players take their end of it, get out of the prison garb and the thuggery aspect of basketball that has come along with hip-hop music in the last 7 or 8 years." Scottie Pippen would call Phil Jackson what many pondered him being, a racist. Pippen would walk back his comments after they aired in GQ magazine. Phil Jackson was a deadhead at one point. He admittedly dabbled in psychedelics. The Daily Beast even reported he took to the streets of the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Robert Silverman of the Daily Beast would write, by 2010, Jackson was siding with Arizona lawmakers, including noted racist profiling advocate Sheriff Joe Arpaio, also a staunch Trump supporter, pushing legislation that would have allowed cops to corner anyone who in their minds didn't seem American enough and check their immigration papers. The Phoenix Sun staged a mild protest, and in response, Jackson grumbled, I don't think teams should get involved in the political stuff. As of 2015, he believed the NBA needed to up its age limit because being compensated for their labor was doing the workforce a disservice. As a lifelong supporter of the Bulls, I know that this is going to be talked about on Chicago Sports Radio and WMVP and the like. Can I say that I'm surprised? No, because in a way, after the 70s and the 80s, this is who Phil Jackson is and who he has become all in one.